Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
I try to join the X-Men, but I think there may be races. Just because I'm human, they don't want my help. It seems it doesn't really matter if your superpowers fire to the belt. I tried to join the Justice League, but Batman was a douche to me. And Black Canary wouldn't tell me hi. And Classic Man just threw a middle finger that was 30 stories high. I got a message from the great Avengers.
Hello, this is Man Now Comics. We are joined this week by John Seiler and Ryan Fretz. I'm Lou Gonzalez, and we kind of got some comics this week that came out, and a little bit of news.
A lot of the news is just like, hey, everything's going back to business.
Yeah, so I think I saw I think this is the second week DC, or the first week DC had the digital direct stuff. So they actually had some books come out, new books come out digitally.
I think there's been some digital books that have been coming out. It's just
They're just very because I actually saw Flash came out, Green Lantern came out, and Batman and the Outsiders, and what was the other one? House of Whispers were the ones I saw. So those are actually kind of big name titles that they released, but not hard. Because I don't. Did we talk about last week their whole deal that they have a new distributor?
Nope. That's weird. Do you have the story for that?
Yeah, so they are using Lunar, which is Midtown Comics, and what's the other place that owns Discount Comic Book Services, and I think they're the same people that own In Stock Trade. So yeah, they basically got books out a month before Diamond did, and they're just basically a warehouse crew, and they've kind of shown some pictures. And so some books got out. I know I got an email from my comic book shop about they're actually putting in orders now because they are actually expecting to get some books at some point. So it's kind of big news that DC bailed on Diamond.
Yep. I think also they bailed on Diamond because I think it was at a time where they were we need to put books out, and we don't know when everyone else is getting back, so why don't we just kind of be the first?
Yeah, because it's almost they have a month's head start, because Diamond's saying at the end of May.
Yeah. Well, everyone is at the end of May.
Yeah, except for DC, I guess, came out this week or last week was their first week.
Oh, I didn't know they were already starting.
Yes. I think it was this past, I think they started last week, but they actually got books out this week, shipping to people, through.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking now. So yeah, the books that came out this week are Batman and the Outsiders, Flash, Green Lantern, Season 2, Hawkman, some trades. Yeah,
yes.
That's cool. I'm not reading any of these books. That's probably why I didn't get an email from my comic guy.
Yeah, I read Green Lantern's one of my books because it's the Grant Morrison Green Lantern, which I haven't read yet. I read Batman and the Outsiders, and I read Flash just because they were out, and I was oh shit, there's actually new comics, and it was cool. I was oh yeah, I forgot what story we were on with Flash, and I was oh, I actually kind of dig this story.
There are 12 issues of Batman and the Outsiders. Time gone.
Yeah, well,
I feel like that book just recently launched.
I think it launched in last October.
It was also one of those books that was supposed to come out earlier, and then it got pushed back.
Yeah, because it's the reason I read that book is because I like Duke and I like Cassandra, and it's the only thing they're in right now, and they're actually doing interesting things with them. And Black Lightning is cool in it too, and they're doing interesting things in that book with them. Although I'm did not feel this last issue that just came out, because Ra's al Ghul has now super alien tech for some reason.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
It's why? It's we have this really cool kind of mystic kind of guy. Let's just make him.
Yeah, well, the cool thing the book has done is it's delved deeper into Duke's powers, which has been really interesting.
I wasn't aware that Duke had powers.
Yeah, he has light-based powers.
We're talking about the Batman character, right?
Yeah,
Duke?
the Signal.
Signal. There we go.
Yeah, He's Signal because he has light-based powers.
Oh, I thought it was just like a Batman thing, like the Bat
No,
Signal.
no, that was like the whole thing in one of the books they did was like that's why Batman kind of recruited him, quote unquote, from that group of Robins, is because he's a meta, and so he's like a hero for the daylight. Yeah. So that's why like when he had his own book, it was interesting because it was like, oh, it's Gotham during the day was like the idea. And I can't remember, he can see like light trails and follow them and stuff like that. So like he's has some light powers. In the new book, they're like, well, he also has the reverse where because he has light powers, he can like do stuff with like the lack of light as well. Like he can absorb all the light in the room and stuff like that.
I like that. Like it's just he'll just
Yeah.
absorb all the light in the room, and Batman just like takes him out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he's kind of like he has like similar stuff to the Ray, but he can't turn into energy.
God,
And
the Ray. The character that DC, like, I feel like every 5 or 6 years is like tries to make to be a thing.
Well, I
But, like,
think
the Ray, it's like, look, I honestly just believe that like Jeff Johns really loves the Ray, or Dan Didio like really loves the Ray, and he just tries to make the Ray happen. Like ever since Identity Crisis, I'm like, guys, the Ray ain't working.
Yeah, well, I think it's also because he's one of their, I'll say this with giant quotation marks, bigger gay characters.
Because I feel like I have a pretty good finger on the pulse of gay superheroes, and I did not know that he was gay.
Yes.
But then again, I couldn't tell you anything about the Ray.
Well, it's also like that. I think that's why they used him, and he was good in was it Crisis on Earth X? Was the Arrowverse crossover like 3 ago when they had the Nazi world? And he was one of the main characters in that. And in that world, him and Citizen Cold were a couple. And what's his name? I can't remember. What's the actor that plays Captain Cold? Do you remember, Ryan?
From which Captain Cold?
Yeah, from Flash
Lee?
and stuff.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I just
because he is gay in real life, so like it was like
was he?
Yeah, he is. Yes, because he's had a whole thing where like because he's born in Russia and they wanted to give him some like prize, and he told them to go fuck themselves because he's gay, and it's like it's banned in Russia.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Oh my god, because he's the other guy from Prison Break.
Yeah, from from Legends of Tomorrow as well.
Yeah,
I know. I just forget his name.
Wentworth Miller. Yeah, that's who it is. So yeah, him and the Ray were a couple in that Crisis on Earth X crossover. And yeah, the Ray was actually like awesome in that. His suit wasn't the best, but he was a cool character. And he got like a spin-off cartoon. And I don't remember what we were talking about.
The Ray.
Well, before that, how did we get on the Ray? I was talking about Batman the Outsiders. But yeah, DC DC had comic books come out.
So yeah, as DC is starting to release some stuff, Marvel also put out their release schedule for, I believe, like up to yeah, they also announced that 8 titles will be going digital only. They're currently also ongoings. So Ant-Man, or the books are Ghost Spider, Ant-Man, Avengers of the Wastelands, Ravencroft, Star, Marvel's Spider-Man's The Black Hat Strikes, Hawkeye Freefall, and 2020 Ironheart, which seems very weird that is like the only 2020 book that is digital only now. And Star Spider also just started up, and so it's like if you're gonna have like a 5-issue mini, and it's like why would you just start putting Ant-Man #4 on digital only? It's like I I get that like these books will probably do a little bit better on digital, but like I also think that Marvel should make the past issues of these series returnable. Like if I was a store and I bought like issues 1 through 3 of Ant-Man for customers to come and pick up, and then it's like you can't even like sell them because it's like you can't finish out the series. It's like what a waste of money.
I wonder how many stores had like a ton of extra copies of those, but yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying.
I mean, like, I can't imagine too many stores like went whole hog on Ant-Man, whatever Ravencroft is.
Yeah, like Hawkeye, I think, has like a decent like fan following. People that probably collect Hawkeye. Like I've never even heard of what is the Star book? Or-
Star is a spin-off of the current Captain Marvel book.
oh my god! Do you want to know what Ravencroft is?
I imagine it's like Marvel trying to do like an Arkham Asylum book, but about Ravencroft.
It's a team up book between Misty Knight and John Jameson.
What?
Are you talking about the Wolfman?
Yes.
Are you talking about this John Jameson, all-star astronaut son of J. Jonah Jameson?
Yes, it's not Werewolf by Night. It's the other werewolf. What is his name? Because he has the stupid ruby in his chest. Oh my god. What is John Jameson's dumb superhero name? Because they don't say it in this thing. It says John Jameson.
I looked up John Jameson. All I get is whiskey.
Man-Wolf. That's his-
Man-Wolf. What
yeah.
a bad name.
Uh,
Also known as Colonel Jupiter, the Man-Wolf, and the Star God. What a... Man, John Jameson. What a weird character.
you remember when they were like sort of maybe going to set him up in Sam Raimi's universe?
Isn't he like James Marsden in like those... Or like...
No, he's only in the second movie, and he's somebody I've never heard of. I'll look it up because it's the scene. It's the no, it's the first movie, isn't it? Because he's the one that's like he's dating what's her name? Crap.
My god. They announced a Man-Wolf movie in March?
Wait, like
I'm on
recently?
like the actually, you know what, I don't trust this Wikipedia link. What is this? This is a fake story if I ever saw one, because it was like basically it was like on the Wikipedia page and it was like, oh, Marvel announces like Spider-Man spin-offs, and it's like it's
Oh no,
Man-Wolf.
Sony did announce like a bunch of like was it? I think it was no, it was Universal dropped like a bunch of like
It's they brought
dates for stuff.
Solo and Man-Wolf, and it's like, look, don't like if you're gonna make up a fake story, don't make a fake story that fake.
Yeah,
There was what was it?
the actor
There
was Daniel Giles portrayed him, who I've never heard of
And-
or seen again.
It's like
What,
if
the
you're
Sam
Sony-
Raimi?
Yeah, the guy in Sam Raimi's that played John
And-
Jameson.
Oh, okay,
If you-
okay.
If you're Sony, why don't you want to do all these like supernatural guys? It's like, why don't you just make fucking Midnight Suns?
Because they don't have
They-
the rights to them all. They only have the rights to Morbius, which they made.
I mean, you could have Morbius and I don't know, some other of the horror themed.
They're all owned by Marvel. They only have the Spider-Man ones,
Well, yeah, the horror Spider-Man characters.
like such as
Mysterio's kind of scary. He makes
Well,
spooky stuff.
we already
Do they
kinda
still have
got-
Blade?
No,
Or
Blade's
is that-
Marvel. That's
Yeah,
why.
they
they
did
got
that
Mark.
Blade movie.
Yeah, with what's his name? That won he's won 2 Oscars. That was Coppermouth and Luke Cage.
Yeah, Masahara Ali.
Yeah. Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, man, what a weird thing. God, they still made that Morbius movie. I can't believe it.
Yep.
Those mad lads. But yeah.
Can
So what was that?
Can you imagine? I was gonna say, can you imagine if Morbius like breaks records? Like it just becomes like the new Deadpool. Like it
No
just
way.
shatters
It's
all
like-
expectations.
My expectations of like movies from those like third parties are so low at this point after Bloodshot. I'm like, it can't be worse than Bloodshot. It can't be worse than Hellboy. As long as it's somewhere in the Venom range of things.
Deadpool was third party, wasn't it? It wasn't.
No, Fox. That's Fox.
Oh, it's still third party at that point.
Yeah, but it was also kind of a different thing.
Well, that's because they gave like Ryan Reynolds and the director like creative right. They didn't like try and like.
yeah, which
they
in this
try and,
case,
like,
if they did that,
I don't know. We got like one pretty good Deadpool movie and one pretty bad Deadpool.
I think they were both pretty okay.
the second one's fine. It's not as good as it's not even close to as good as the first one, but it's fine.
I do not. I think Deadpool 1 is funny because it's self-deprecating, and then Deadpool 2 is basically just like shitting on X-Men in like not a fun way, and it's like
It's
X-Force, and it's like it's stupid, and it's like we're gonna kill them all because they're all dumb, and I'm like, what? It's like like look, I did not expect Zeitgeist to live because that guy's his thing. He dies in the first issue he's in. Like, it's the joke. He's an ecstatic. But it's like, it's just like they tried to do the X-Force Peter Milligan thing, where it's like you introduce these guys and you kill them all. But it's like, to me, it was just like it was just super mean. And like the
I
big
thought
the
it
big
was
fight
also
with
not.
Juggernaut, like they beat Juggernaut by sticking a thing up his ass and he gets electrocuted. And then
That's
they
more my problem with it. Is like the comedy seems like unnatural. Like, oh, just like more like it's more jokes, not better jokes.
like they killed Black Tom Cassidy and that fucking sucks. Like that fucking blows so hard.
Like that, and that's the best joke in the movie is like like the fact that he's called Black Tom Cassidy, and Wade Wilson's like, "You fucking racist." Like that's
Yeah.
the best joke in the movie.
Yeah, and I'm just like, it's obvious. It's like they picked up this guy who has a relationship with the Juggernaut, and they didn't know really kind of like a whole lot about him. And it's like I really like the friendship of Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut. It's just like really like just two really cool bros, and they're always got each other's backs. And it's just like, oh, we're not gonna do actually anything with that. We're just gonna kill him off for like this stupid
Especially because
joke.
Black Tom has some pretty badass powers that they just were never going to spend money on.
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't until well, like I think it was like also they just didn't. It was like, oh hey, who's like this loser character like no one's doing anything with? It's like, and to be fair, like Black Tom Cassidy was like not kind of the character in the X-Men for like a while until like
now,
oh hey
Crickle.
until Jonathan Hickman strolls into town and is like, oh hey, like let me just like kind of like do really fun stuff.
Yeah,
And like
well, that's
now
like
you
the
got
whole
like
Hickman.
and now you have like weird neurotic Black Tom Cassidy, and I like it, and I'm kind of sad that Juggernaut is Juggernaut can't be on Krakoa.
I think they're gonna figure that out because, well, whenever we get those books back, because the last thing they were doing with Black Tom was, I think he was in the X-Force book, and he was going to go on a mission with Wolverine because they're like, he's like, I need a goddamn break from this island. And they're like, all right, you want to go with Wolverine to go fuck shit up? And he's like, fuck yeah.
Well, there's also supposed to be a Juggernaut mini. I don't know if like that's still coming out or not because like I'm looking at this list of books right now and I don't think it's coming out.
There was a there was a debate on this Reddit thread for Marvel the other day about how everything's leading towards another AVX, and I don't know how I feel about that because
that would be a dumb I can see why people think that, and that's a dumb outcome. The problem is, besides the Fantastic Four, we've seen no connection to the rest of Marvel continuity.
Well, everyone's like, well, the mutants, even though they deserve it, are kind of just running rampant right now. They don't care what's going on.
Well, because they're basically mortal.
Yeah, it's like, and why should they? Like, why should they care about like whatever like the Avengers are doing?
And also, what the fuck has anybody else ever done for them? Like,
yeah, that's basically what happened. That's how AVX initially started. Like, they needed something from the mutants, and the mutants said no, and that's basically how the war broke out. And that's basically what's going to happen again.
One of my favorite X-Men moments is like after M Day happened, and then the purifiers like showed up to the Xavier school and blew up a bunch of buses full of like depowered kids. And
Emma Frost,
and this was like around Civil War too, so like they wanted
the mutants were under quote unquote house arrest.
Yeah, Carol Danvers like shows up at the Xavier Institute and basically is like, hey, like it's like we want the mutants to register, and Emma Frost is like, yeah, no. And she's like, well, if you don't register, you're going to be considered criminals. And she's like, what? And Emma's like, basically puts a psychotic like image into her brain about like, hey, like look at all these like dead kids I just had to bury, and where were the Avengers, helping us out? Like, piss off. And like, and like in Carol leaves and like, yeah, sure, and like Carol would not have been the character. I think it's like they use Carol because Carol's like the Avenger who has like the most history with the X-Men, but it's like I also would not have had Carol get dunked on that hard by Emma Frost.
There was I think it's like within the first 3 pages of AVX issue 1, Cyclops just calls Captain America racist to his face and just tells him to get off his lawn.
Because the mutants are like they are like legitimately a separate race.
Yeah, he just calls them out on it.
I mean, like, and also it's like, again, like, I wouldn't have the pretty white boy like telling the other pretty white boy that he's a racist.
The very Aryan-looking one telling the other
You
very
know.
Aryan-looking one.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like it's not entirely not true. I mean, it's like, but I just feel like that's just like a story that that people want to tell like every 5 years about how the Avengers don't do shit for the X-Men, and the Avengers go and ask X-Men for help, and X-Men are like, yeah, no thanks, we got our own shit to deal with, and then they get into a big fight, and then it's like you expect like something to kind of compliment, and it never does, and then we just have like this cycle again.
Yeah, well,
And
that's the whole thing. It's like in the past, like, I kind of get the idea. Like, all right, mutants shouldn't really never be on the Avengers team ever again at this point. Like, Wolverine should never be an Avenger again. It makes no sense for him to be on that team ever again.
Isn't he
Yeah.
currently on a Avenger team with like the Punisher and Conan the Barbarian?
I
don't think that's an
literally-
Avenger team. I think that's something else. That's a different team.
Also, is Conan anything with Conan in continuity?
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay.
Conan and Doctor Doom. Whenever Conan is with Doctor Doom, it's like the dialogue between them two. Between the two is just it's so fun to watch. There was what was it? I was in an argument about like possible outcomes for AVX, and the dumbest conclusion that came up out of the entire thread was they all, you know how they've been splicing mutant genes together to like make more powerful mutants. Like the best way to just get rid of like all the X-Men without drama would be mixing all of their DNAs with all the mutants with Forget Me Not, and just like have them leave the planet, and that'll be it. Something stupid along those lines.
You just write off mutants forever.
You know, they would come back. Just
Mm.
give them some breathing room.
Well, it's kind of what they're doing now, where it's like they're in their kind of own pocket continuity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where everything got so like, who knows where it would have been at this point, because we haven't had one of those books out in like 2 months.
Look, man, the X-Men got bigger stuff to worry about than whatever the Avengers are doing. They got swords coming up, man.
Oh
I'm so excited.
We got Swords of 10 coming up. We got more important things.
We already have one. We've seen one sword.
Yeah, that Cable book wasn't bad.
No,
like, I don't know if
I think I talked about it, and then I don't think you had read it, but like that's straight up ROM, right? That they're teasing.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought it was ROM.
They don't own ROM, but they own the race. But that's ROM's race.
Well, they own everything about ROM except for the character ROM.
Yes,
like they own the diaries.
Yeah. So if they're like bringing that back, I was like, oh, they like Hickman's just like, what can I play with? I can play with all this, and now they're just like, whatever, do whatever you want. I don't know. It's pretty cool though, and I think this says like how excited we want books again. I don't know. Was there? I'm trying to think. Oh, I saw the DC release stuff, and like Death Metal got pushed back with like a month and a half. About, I think it's in June is their first thing.
I thought that wasn't coming for like a while. I need to read Metal.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't remember. It got pushed back a bit. Like it got pushed back like it was supposed to start at the end of this month.
Well, someone brought up that a couple days ago. It was supposed to be free comic book day, and we were supposed to get a bunch of. There was like a secret DC book, and there was a secret Marvel book, and who knows if we'll ever see those stuff. But yeah, they were supposed to build up like Empire. Is that an event that Marvel's doing with like the Kree and the Skrulls?
No idea.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I saw that there was like an X-Men like tie-in to Empire, and I was just like, hey, you don't have to get this for me. I'm good.
Everything is like in such a weird, like you can't, like there's no blame for anything. Like, everything is like such a weird place. I don't know. I honestly wonder how, not stores, but like if this is like the perfect time for people to just drop books like hardcore.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I'm doing. Like going through Amazing Spider-Man right now, and I'm just like, I'm definitely dropping this shit.
Oh yeah, I was like reading stuff up on that, and there's some crazy ass shit.
And I mean, like, thankfully, I think it's like before this all happened, there was like a bunch of books that I was reading that were like that just ended. Like, like most of the Wonder Comics stuff, like all basically ended, and Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen only had like one issue left of each of those, and I think like all of the Black Label books, not Black Label, Young Animal books were kind of like almost ending. So
Yeah, I think they were kind of ending them because they were readjusting the label.
yeah, well, who knows? It's just like they're gonna probably put them under Black Label because at the end of the day, Black Label probably sells a lot better than Young Animal. But I think that's at fault of the publisher and not the fault of the brand.
Yeah. Trying to think what else has been. So like, yeah, there's Boom Comics put their stuff out. There's some clips which I didn't even know this is a thing that Charlize Theron has a Netflix. I think it's a movie, like Comic Book Old Guard, which was like an image book.
The Old Guard, that's happening.
They drop like 2 pictures, and it looks like Underworld with Charlize Theron from these pictures.
Oh yeah, I seen that like trending today.
They're just like immortal warriors that still do stuff.
So Highlander.
Yeah, but they're like a team, I guess. But like the image, like the one image is like straight up like I'm like, oh, it's Charlize Theron's Underworld. Here, I'll put it in the chat here.
No, Charlize Theron already had an Underworld. It was called Aeon Flux.
Yeah, well, she has that same haircut here, but she's a little dusty and she has a gun.
I hear like the Old Guard's really good. I've never read it because a lot of Greg Rucka stuff is just always late, so I just kind of like wait for trades for that. But
it's an interesting concept because I think they're supposed to be like a group of like Athenians or like Spartans or something, like, or maybe like a Roman group. Which, like, as much as it's mystical, I'm like, then why is there a lady there? But I don't know. I just kind of like, I guess conceptually it's interesting, but like this show does not seem interesting to me at all.
I mean, like, I'll probably like at least check it out. It's a movie, right? Not a TV show.
I have no idea.
No,
Film. It's a film.
Yeah,
I already pay for Netflix, so
yeah, and I've been like slowly getting caught up on stuff on Netflix. I actually just finished Glitch Techs, which is like an animated series from Nickelodeon that they just like threw up onto Netflix, and that show's really fun. It's like super BioGamey inspired bullshit. It's basically about like these 2 kids that work for a GameStop kind of like a GameStop like Apple like company, and like the company also like sends the workers out as agents to go fight game glitches that like can manifest in the real world and cause destruction. And
That sounds pretty cool.
But like they're not, it's like something that's like not known to the public because they like basically like Men in Black people and like wipe their minds so they forget like whatever they saw.
Oh, that's interesting.
But yeah, it's like there's a whole episode that's basically a huge pastiche of Castlevania. Like the glitch takes over this house and makes it like Castle Dracula. Yeah, and it's like neat.
Is that on
like
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix. It's 8 episodes of like 2 like 10-minute episodes, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I'll
So
take
like,
a look
you
at
can
that.
plow through that pretty quick.
Yeah.
Speaking
I basically watched it while cleaning house.
What were you gonna say, Ryan?
Oh no, so speaking of like streaming, Hulu started doing HBO for free. Like some of their
Well, HBO has been doing some free stuff, like on its own too.
Yeah, they started doing some free stuff. I think The Boys is coming with the release date soon, hopefully next month for season 2. Has anyone of you watched season 1 yet?
I have not. The way I'm attacking my backlog right now is very strange and erratic, and that has not been one so far. It's on there though. I've heard good things about it.
Simon Pegg's in it. Come on.
Yeah, I have to watch that. I have to watch Good Omens.
Good Omens was great. Even though it got 1 season, they did skip out a lot of stuff from the book.
Are they not doing any more with it? I guess that makes sense.
No, there was only 1 season. It was like a miniseries.
Yeah, there's like big names in it, so
it was good. What else came out?
I've watched every episode of what the hell is it called? Dark Side of the Mat or Dark Side of the Ring? Dark Side of the Ring.
Do you want to talk about that shit?
Oh, I've watched every single episode. So if you haven't watched it, this is the Vice docu-series on like fucked up stories from wrestling.
They're all like it's basically a docu-series that's kind of filmed like a true crimes documentary series.
Yeah, it's like kind of like 30 for 30 from ESPN, but also true crimey with like very weird, like funny, like what do you call that? Like their reenactments that are blurred out.
Yeah, well, and so like each episode is about like a certain tragedy or something outrageous that's happened within wrestling. Like they did a whole episode about like the death of Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, that was the first one I watched, which is fucking crazy. Well, the death, the killing of Bruiser Brody is the episode.
Yeah, which is more apt than the death of Bruiser Brody.
Because he's straight up murdered.
He was murdered in a locker room in Puerto Rico, like during like a wrestling show was being put, and like
Nothing happened.
Well, yeah, and it's like very, it's like there's been like rumors of like who did it and what happened and the people who are involved, and so like this kind of like takes all those different angles and like kind of show what's happened. Like I like there's like some bits I didn't know. Like the whole thing with Tony Atlas, I did not know that Tony Atlas was there.
And Tony Atlas is like the best part of that episode.
Yeah, and that's like kind of like the best thing about the episode or the show is I think it like their guests are so good. Like the Von Erich episode is like super heartbreaking. For like
that's the only one where I know that like ESPN did a Von Erichs episode, and I kind of want to watch that because these are they like an hour each.
And for people who don't know about the Von Erichs, like the Von Erich family was like super famous, Texas-based wrestling family, and Fritz, who was like the matriarch of the family, had like 6 sons. And
well, he had 7 sons. One died when he was like 5?
Yeah,
and
then like
all but one died horribly.
Oh yeah, like back like within like the span of a couple years, and like Kevin Von Erich is on there, and he's like the only surviving Von Erich brother, and he's like, I used to have like 5 brothers, and now I have no. And it's
like, and he's the oldest, I think.
He would have been the second oldest.
Yes, besides the 5-year-old that died. Yeah, because it's like, was it one had like a weird thing, and then 3 suicides?
Yeah, well, one of them died in Japan. And then, like, the rest just died like back.
Dude, the one guy wrestled with 1 foot. That was the part where I was like, "What the fuck? How is that possible?"
Like his entire WWE career would have been like when he only had 1. And he hit
that one was crazy. The one right after that, because season 1 is good, but I think season 2 is better. But like the mysterious death of like Gino Hernandez.
Yeah,
that one was good. The Moolah one was like meh.
Well, the Moolah one was, I mean...
They didn't go into it enough.
Yeah, I think it's like also, it's like the people that were on there to defend her are like, they just don't seem credible at all. And like the whole entire thing with Moolah is just really gross. But yeah, season 2...
season 2 picks up much better. I think Benoit is a much better narrator also. Not Benoit, oh my god. Jericho. But yeah, and it starts with a 2-parter on Benoit. Which
the 2-parter for Benoit could also just double as a Guerrero Benoit episode.
Which so unlike the other shows, like Conor McGraw is like a big wrestling fan, and I can't remember where he said he heard it, but and then when I heard he told me this before I watched it. It's like that there's a slight rumors that the 2 of them were a couple. And in watching that docuseries, you're like, oh, I can see that. And because Benoit's reaction to Eddie's death is more...
I don't super buy that, because I think like also it's just like there's this idea that like men can't just be like friends. It's like, oh, it's like if you're really close, like you have to be lovers. It's like, I don't know, man. Like I feel like Benoit just had like it was.
Oh, there's so many other things going on there.
It was like his it was like his traveling partner. It's like they were like together, traveling together for like so long. They might as well have been like a married couple.
I guess the thing is like,
but I don't think that they were like
the percentage of like people who are gay compared to the number of wrestlers, which I've only heard of like 1 that came out, and they came out in a suicide note. And
Canyon?
Yeah, Chris Canyon. And it's like, and how religious they were, and like Guerrero's Mexican. It's like not out of the possibility. And with the way that Benoit reacts, it seemed more like a spouse than you would like a friend. But I guess they could have been like they were kind of like work husbands.
Yeah, I would buy that. Like I don't think there's like kind of like much credence to like the rest of it. But like
Mm.
as for like the other episodes, like the New Jack episode is fucking bananas.
Yeah,
Uh
I have heard him before I watched this on several podcasts within the last like couple of years, and he is still fucking crazy. But like,
Yep.
I kind of like in watching it, you're just like, at least for me, I'm like, oh, he's a madman, but I get his madness. Like, I understand when he's just like, do you know what it's like when you go to places and people are just like calling you like the N word, and a kid comes up and rubs your hands, like, oh, my dad told me the black would rub off on me.
What the hell?
Oh, dude, it's like it's like straight up like all the racism stuff, and then it kind of followed in because they talked to D'Lo Brown a lot in it because they worked together, and then the one after that was the one I was like, I didn't know this happened. I want to see all the film of this, the Brawl for All.
Yep. I was watching wrestling when the Brawl for All was going on. It is
The most
horrendous.
hilarious, dumbest thing ever done ever.
Yeah, and it's just like also just so sad because so like the Brawl for All was like a boxing tournament that was supposed to be legit and was supposed to like show like who the toughest WWE wrestler was.
It was
Oh.
it's boxing, quote unquote, because there was like it seemed like there were sort of takedowns in it.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing. It's like it was all like a ploy to basically like get
Pump up
JBL to get beaten up, and it was
and
also there
pump up
to
Steve Williams.
and yeah, and it was supposed to promote like this wrestler named Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and it did well. You know, JBL got his ass kicked, but it
And
like
then
did not.
in the finale, right?
Yeah, but like basically the breakout star of that was Bart Gunn, and then he was basically just like punished for winning it, and it's just so sad because I mean at the end of the day, Bart Gunn was not going to be like a big star, but it's like you could have put the Intercontinental title on that guy for like 2 months after winning the Brawl for All, and like did
Well,
at least
especially like
and like tried like
what they
you
did
know who
with
was
Billy. Like, why wouldn't you try to make him like them like bitter enemies?
well, it's
Like,
like around that time, the Road Dogg was Intercontinental Champion for 14 days. It's like you couldn't give Bart Gunn the IC title for like a month. You at least just try it out. It's like no, of course not, because like JR was super pissy that his boy lost, that he got severely injured, and a bunch of guys got super injured and were probably salty as fuck. And
it wasn't even his fault. He just went in there and did what, because he even says like, "Oh, do we want to do this thing?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna knock him out." And like everyone just pissed him off, and then he fucking beat the shit out of him, and then the guy tore his ACL, and then he knocked him the fuck out on regular TV.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it does remind me. It's like, oh, this is probably why when Vince McMahon was approached to buy the UFC, he was like, "No, I won't buy anything where I can't control the stars." It's like, oh yeah, here did this game.
but yeah, then the next episode was the Jimmy Snuka episode, which was just shitty as fuck, and like, and that episode also came out like that same week of WWE firing a bunch of people, and WWE, um, you know, Linda McMahon giving that huge payout to Florida, and then Vince being put on some kind of fucking sports bullshit thing by Trump. And I was just like that, like this is the exact week I canceled my WWE network because I was like, this is too much.
Oh, when watching that thing, I remember because they show a clip of it. The interview when Snuka's on Opie and Anthony is like one of the cringiest things I've ever heard live. Because I can't remember when it was, but like a caller called in and was like, "Yeah, Jimmy, I heard you killed your girlfriend." And like in the middle of their interview, like they did that. And then it's like 15 minutes of him just like babbling and like trying to explain the story again. And I think it was like a couple weeks later where he got indicted and that story just blew up. And it was like, that story is fucking crazy and just how scummy everybody is.
Vince McMahon and Snuka going to see in the cops, and then the case is immediately dropped is just very insidious and gross.
Oh, and that cop that they're talking to is just like,
is completely corrupt.
Yeah.
Like I have never seen like a more corrupt cop on TV than that guy.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
then
like I don't know, like the Dino Bravo episode is like
it's
fine,
fine.
and I think like the
I
last
just
two.
watched the Schultz one, but the one Abrams one was fucking crazy though. Like
Yeah,
it had one of my favorite quotes. It's like he died doing what he loved, cocaine and hookers.
uh, yeah. I also like the one where Mick Foley is like, if Herb was like still alive, like what do you think he'd be doing today? And Mick's like jail.
He's
He's
like
like,
time. He
yeah,
just died.
yeah. Like I don't know. I think these last two have been like the
It's hard
David
because
Schultz episode is like fine, but
yeah,
it's like
it again shows the shittiness of like Vince and stuff. But like it's kind of hard where like after like they did like 5 killer ones in a row, and then the next like those 3 are like not as hard. The next 2 are like the Road Warriors, and then the Final Days of Owen Hart.
the Road Warriors episode, if I were to like kind of guess what the story would be about, it would be like them as a history of a tag team, but like the real like kind of gross shit that they'll probably get into is like the mid 2000s run for LOD, where they were like LOD 2000, and they were doing like the suicidal Hawk, who was also like an alcoholic, and he was
Because he's
also an
actually
alcoholic.
an
Yeah,
alcoholic.
and he was yeah, actually like an alcoholic. And then like they did like a thing where he like jumped off the Titantron and like it's like it was just like so gross. Because I also like remember this was like maybe like also around the same time as like the Owen Hart shit, and like wrestlers were like also just dying and suicide like all the time in the 90s, because like fucking
Well,
most wrestlers did not make it out of like the 2000s, because they
uh,
either like died of an overdose or heart attack or suicide.
yeah, they died of natural causes when their heart exploded at the age of 45.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like that's why like I think season 2 has been better because like season 1 opened with like the Macho Man and the Montreal Screwjob, which the Montreal Screwjob episode I was like, I don't really care. Like
Like I care about it in a way of like it's a
not as
really
much as
interesting
they're
story,
making it.
but it's like also a story that's just been told to death. And
Yeah,
it's like, and a lot of like this show is kind of just for the casual audience who doesn't know. Like, which if it's like if you told a casual audience person about the Montreal screw job, they're like, oh, like that's just wrestling. And you're like,
yeah.
no, like no, this shit like actually like was real and it happened and it was weird.
That's where I think like some of the other episodes like come out better. Like where you're like, oh, this is like the fucked up shit. Like even in the ring, like the New Jack one. Like I heard some of the stories, but like I don't think I'd ever heard the one with the kid.
Mass transit.
Yeah, I don't think I'd
That
ever heard that story.
Oh yeah, that mass transit it was like infamous for a very long time. Like that was like
We should
one of
explain. So Ryan, this kid is doing what like kind of backyard wrestling stuff, claiming
yeah,
he's
Yeah.
21, but he's 17,
and he's like 500 pounds, and
wrestling 2 black midgets.
he is like his whole character is basically he's like a bus driver named Mass Transit because a massive transit worker, which is like, hey,
It's
as
not a
a like,
bad. It's
it's
not.
not a bad name, not bad gimmick. It's like, hey,
It's on par with
at
Big
least
Boss Man.
yeah, like that's good. So basically, like, yeah, him and his like his two friends like get a tryout for ECW, and like someone doesn't show up, and so instead of doing like the Mass Transit versus his two friends, match, they were gonna put Mass Transit like teaming up with Devon Dudley against Mustafa or against New
Yeah.
Jack and Mustafa,
Yes.
and like Mass Transit like went up to New Jack, asked him for color, so he's like, okay, can you blade me and blah 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 and do these things, and like you know New Jack being a crazy man, and also it's like you respect like the authority of the locker room and the
Yeah.
hierarchy, and
And
like
New
this
Jack's
guy
like
like
one of the most veteran guys in the locker room and one of the biggest names at that time in that locker room.
so like yeah, so basically they do this match where New Jack before the bell starts like tells Devon get the fuck out of the ring, and they basically just beat the shit out of this kid for like 8 minutes. They like blade him across his forehead so he's just bleeding profusely, and it, and
The guy's
yeah,
dad is in the audience and stuff.
Yeah, and so like they thought he was like 22, but it's like revealed that he's actually the 17-year-old, and they sue Paul Heyman and New Jack, and they want him to, like I think it was
Pay
for
for
like
medical expenses, and they want to charge him with like assault, with like a deadly weapon, and all this crazy stuff. He also pissed off New Jack because he said he wanted to like do some offensive stuff on New Jack, like do a
yeah,
move, and New Jack's like, "The fuck are you?" Like,
yeah, and miraculously New Jack got off. Like
well, basically, the thing is like you lied to them. Your dad was there, so like you had every opportunity to not do it. You're the ones who defrauded them. So
yeah,
fuck you, guy.
but then it's like like a couple years later, like New Jack beats the shit out of this 80-year-old like
Oh my
wrestler.
god, that was
And
brutal.
And then a couple years later, New Jack fucking stabs a guy a couple times with a
A
Wolverine claw.
scalpel. Oh no, Wolverine call. Yeah, the
Yeah,
scalpel is what he did to Mass Transit. I think, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Oh my
fuck,
god.
New Jack is crazy.
Yeah.
Like I would just like I'll like find some like old like the New Jack promos he would give in the South, like the dirty South, full of rednecks, and he would just like talk like he would come to the ring with like a baby doll in a noose hung
Oh yeah,
around his
they
neck.
covered that. A white baby
Uh,
doll, girl baby
yeah,
doll, and a niece.
he would like he would like talk
He took
about
the he took the NWA thing into wrestling, and then went like, and there's so many other things. He's just like, oh yeah, I did like a shit ton of cocaine. I like smoked some crack, and then like the stuff with Mustafa though, it's like, oh yeah, he's like, yeah, I picked up the stuff outside and rolled it up. This shit's gonna get you fucked up.
he would smoke pencil shavings. Like he was
He
like,
was
hey
smoking
man,
pencil
he,
shavings.
he was smoking pencil shavings, and he's just like, what a crazy man.
It's like, but I think like it's a good episode because it's like, oh yeah, I grew up like in New Jersey at the time of ECW, which was huge on the East Coast. Like I like knew people who were like doing tryouts and stuff, and like those guys were around. Like Tommy Dreamer was like around the area. And I was like, oh, it's fucking crazy.
Like I think there's just like nothing more. It's like very few times in wrestling you get like there's just like something happens and you can just tell like the wrestler's just like immediately intimidated. It's like when a wrestler's in the ring and then you hear like the Undertaker gong and you just see like their skin turn pale and it's like, oh, I gotta fight the Undertaker. It's like someone in the ring and then you hear like Bullet scream Natural Born Killers by Ice Cube starts playing. And it's just like you could just see like the horror in the wrestler's face, and like the eye. It's like, oh my god, I gotta wrestle fucking New Jack, and New Jack just comes out and he just saunters in. And he's got a trash can full of just weapons that he's just gonna use throughout this match. And it's just like, what a scary man.
Oh, and his like backstory is insane. When he's like, "Yeah, you think I go crazy?" It's like, what's he say? Like the thing where like his dad pulled a knife on his mom and threatened to kill her in front of him when he's like 5,
His dad shot his mom in front of him. It's
and she
like,
survived and took him, and they ran away. And she also beat the shit out of him too, I believe. And he's like, and you guys wonder why I'm crazy. Oh man, I think the only part of it that's like sad to me is like seeing some of the older wrestlers, like seeing Draws was like, like, and I know what
yeah.
happened to him, and like they talk about it. It's just like I'm glad that he seems like he's doing good. But I'm like, it's like brutal. Although listening
What
to
was the
D'Lo
Drudge?
Brown,
What did Drudge show up in? What was the episode?
the Brawl for All.
Yeah, because he was in the Brawl for All.
Yeah, because he's the one that got robbed. Like with JBL, that he's like, oh, I definitely beat JBL, and they robbed me because they wanted him to keep fighting so he get the shit kicked out of him. Oh man, but I definitely recommend it. You can the Benoit thing Vice put online, but all the episodes are on YouTube. Basically, people put them up.
Yeah, it's like as long as you like go on YouTube like the very next day and you look up Dark Side of the Ring today, you'll find a link to like the newest episode.
Yeah, it's something I was like, oh, this kind of got me like feeling like something for wrestling, and then there was like, I think they're gonna try to do some like, because they're like filming things like felt like a movie now. They're gonna try to do some match that's like the Raid. I heard where it's like,
Yeah. So yeah, Money in the Bank is Sunday. I will be pirating the show, because I ain't giving them any money for right now. and which I mean, like, hey, like don't pirate you guys. I shouldn't.
I would say you could pirate WWE. They deserve it.
But yeah, so basically every year they do this show called Money in the Bank. And the match is basically 6 people in a ladder match. And you climb up the ladder and you grab a thing at the top. And the thing at the top in a Money in the Bank ladder match is a briefcase that allows you a guaranteed title shot at any time within the calendar year. So like people have like, cashed it in before the match, during a match, a couple of like a month ahead of time, like, right in the second. So it's kind of like a really kind of cool, like, oh, like this really crazy thing is going to happen the next calendar year, and sometimes it's a huge payoff. Sometimes it's actually like really shitty. Braun Strowman or Damian Sandow or Baron Corbin, where it's like they win the Money in the Bank match and then they don't do anything with it. But so the catch with this year is that they're filming it at the corporate headquarters of WWE in Hartford, Connecticut, and the match is going to start on the first floor, and then the match basically goes all throughout the building until they get to the very top, and then on the very top is the ring with the ladder, and then they climb up the ladder to grab the thing. But I'm like also just thinking at some point that someone's going to come in on a helicopter, come onto the grab it, and then fly away. And if that shit doesn't happen, then it's like you failed.
Or if someone doesn't get thrown through like a window out of like the second story.
Yeah, like I also just think that for being okay, so they're also like both the women's and the men's are taking place at the same time.
That's hilarious.
So it's like I know at some point there's going to be like a guy crawls up and grabs the briefcase, but it's the wrong briefcase, so he has to put it back and he has to climb the right ladder. But I don't know, man. Like I feel like it's like if you're going to have like a thing take place in a building, why not just have your entire roster be there? And it's just like a bunch of like just different fights happening throughout, and it's like make it like a big action movie. I actually, in fact, don't even have any other matches on the card. Just have the Money in the Bank ladder match, and it lasts 2 hours or 3 hours or however long the pay-per-view is, and have a lot of just little mini matches that take place as like you're like knocking people like out and going back up and stuff like that.
If they wanted to be really awesome, and going on what you said, if they did something like what the NFL does for Red Zone, where you could actually see like 6 different cameras at once, and you could watch all the matches simultaneously, and then it would like click into one when something crazy was happening. Or on your own, like if they could do something like that within like their app or whatever, or like on the paper, like there's definitely a way to do it because the NFL has like a thing. But like if you could do that, like how fucking rad would that be?
And people just make little makeshift alliances to try and make their way through. It's basically just the Buckle experiment, but as a wrestling match.
Yeah, well, it's the Royal Rumble, but in a building.
Yeah, it
should be like it should be if they did anything like they should set up where there's rankings, and your ranking is what floor you start on. So if you're a higher ranking, you start off on a higher floor, so you're closer to the top.
But yeah, that's supposed to be Sunday. I'm going to be watching it with a bunch of people online, so that's going to be fun at least.
I don't know. Is there anything else we want to talk about? We went on like a huge tangent there, Ryan. Sorry that we talked about wrestling for a while on this show.
Did you happen to see AEW yesterday?
No, I don't. I haven't watched any live wrestling in forever, but like the show has got me kind of back into like an interest in it.
There's like a big bit that happened yesterday because it was like they had a big it was Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy versus Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. I believe their team name is called Les Sex Gods. And they end up like fighting in the back of the arena, and they're just like kind of going everywhere. And there's like a point where
is this where the guy has the golf cart?
Yeah, where
I saw that.
Where Matt Hardy's driving the golf cart with Kenny Omega, and they run over Sammy Guevara. and which is like prime meme material. Like it's funny
Oh
because
yeah, I've already seen it.
because it got posted on Word Circle
What?
Reddit, and then
Oh,
people then shared it to meme economy.
sorry, I
Uh,
was trying to figure out what arena they were in because there was like a poster of like a football player. I was like, what fucking team is this? And like, oh, it's the Jaguars. They're Jacksonville.
yeah, it's funny. It's funny because like there's also a bunch of beer ads like on the pillars, and it's for like Corona.
Yeah. Well, it's like, oh, look, this stadium is full. It's probably going to be the only time it's going to, or like this, there's people in it. It's probably going to be the only time for a while. Also, the Jaguars can't get anybody in that arena, so it makes sense.
Well, also the guy who runs AEW, or
Oh my god.
AEW.
I'm watching the clip you shared, and Matt Hardy just came out of an icebox.
Yeah. Oh, so that was like the other thing is that Matt Hardy came out at the start of the match as broken Matt Hardy, and
I
then
love this. I love that character too.
but then he became like Matt Hardy at a point in the match, and then he came out like a third time after being put in that ice thing, and he came out as Damascus, which is his new form because his whole thing in AEW is like that the form that was previously of Matt Hardy is gone. Like the old god that used to be in this vessel of Matt Hardy, and now the new vessel is Damascus. So Matt Hardy has like this Foley thing kind of going on where he has like 3 different personalities.
So is
And
he
they're-
like? Yeah, I was gonna say he's the new Mick Foley, where he can be Cactus Jack or Dude Love or Mankind at any point.
Yeah, but instead of like they only did that once in the Royal Rumble where it was like he came out in the three different times as as the different faces, but it was like they never like really kind of did it to where they all kind of coexisted all at the same time. Which I think was like kind of like it's like he became Cactus Jack when it's like they had like a blood feud. Or it's like, but for the most part, he was always Mankind, or except for like 3 months, he was Dude Love. But like for Matt Hardy here, it's like, oh, he's all 3 characters at once. So it's like you don't feel like it's like you don't get tired of it because it's like once you get like a little bit of one, it's like you can switch to the other.
It actually reminds me. Isn't there a comic like that? And it's something Cowboy Viking Ninja.
Yep.
That like that's and they were supposed to do a movie with Chris Pratt, I think, at some point. And it's basically
And-
that premise.
And the Russos. Well, like the idea was that he had like the 3 personalities of the cowboy, a ninja, and a Viking, and it was like, and he was like a special agent, and he was part of a program with people who also had like multiple personality disorders. And, like there was a guy who was like a diver, he was like a diver, oceanographer, sailor.
Okay, those seem like kind of the same thing.
And that was the joke.
Okay,
But yeah, and it's like
Aquaman, Namor, and I don't know, the creature from the Black Lagoon.
yeah, and that was like the thing. It's like he would fight like other people who had like also like multiple personality disorders. But yeah, it was like a really cool comic that like I think it's just like it's like one of those Image books that just kind of got forgotten.
Well, I think it ended, and then they were like the movie rights got bought.
Yeah, and it was like written by it was written by AJ Lieberman, who like I don't kind of like even know if they have done anything since. It was drawn by Riley Rosmo, which was like the book I found out about them from, and they just continued to work. But yeah, like well, he has a DC page. It looks like he wrote like a bunch of Batman books, Batman Gotham Knights.
Oh, I think that's ongoing right now. There's like 7 Batman books, so it's hard to tell.
He wrote like a Martian Manhunter from like the DC Swoop era. Oh, Gotham Knights was from War Games. So this was a while. Yeah, all these books are like a while ago. So yeah, like I don't think he's working in comics anymore. Looking at this, he wrote a Scholastic book. Yeah, I don't think it looks like he's like not doing stuff anymore. That's kind of a shame because like I think Cowboy Ninja Viking was like really good, and maybe it was like one of those things where he only had like the one idea, or like he was kind of like banking on Cowboy Ninja Viking becoming like a film, and maybe he just got like a bunch of money from it, and he just doesn't have to work anymore.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, has anybody been reading anything they want to talk about that we haven't covered, or?
I'm good.
All right. Well, oh, Ryan, are you even still with us? Or did you fall asleep?
Dead.
Oh, I guess Ryan. We lost Ryan. We put him to sleep with our wrestling stuff. Yeah, so um
You want to call it a show?
yeah. So where can we find your stuff, John?
You can find me on Twitter at John underscore FN underscore Seiler SEILER, where I talk about stuff I'm working on for work, sharing videos of Sean Constantine King Shark relationship, and other things. But yeah, you can find me there. Same name also on Instagram.
All right, and yeah, don't forget to check out all the other shows. We are going to be doing another watch party soon, and I believe our next episode of comics, we are going to be reading something from Hellboy, and that should give you a hint about what our next watch party is. And yeah, don't forget to tell your friends, leave 5 stars, and yeah, we'll catch you next time. Adios.
Bye.
So I guess I'll join the Great Lakes of